to our next rockstar speaker, we have with us our Karmaveer recipient, Pooja Kapur, who received the award last year. Pooja does a lot of work through her initiative called TAS, along with her twin sister Payal Kapur, who is also the mother of Sumer. So it's like genetic to do good in their family, right? So Pooja is going to speak about India's ability to rise against the brutality against women. Pooja Kapur, put your hands together for her, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, namaste. I'm probably speaking on a public platform after my school days, so I'm not really in a comfort zone, but thank you very much, Jerry and Meenu, for giving me an opportunity to talk about a topic that's really very close to my heart. India's ability to rise against brutality against women. For the last 10 years, I've heard virtually every single corporate company talk about their CSR mandate being about literacy for people less privileged amongst us. Literacy is the first step, absolutely, to breaking the cycle of poverty for sure. But when it comes to the girl child, I sometimes wonder if really this is the most important issue. And I'll explain why. I asked our typical jharu pocha wali bai, somebody called Lakshmi who works here in Delhi, about how her 16-year-old daughter was. And I was shocked when she told me that this girl was about to have a baby. And I launched into this usual rhetorical of how could you do this? Aren't you concerned about her future, her life? And she went on to tell me she's an illiterate woman from a very small village in Haryana. And she told me that she was very committed to sending her daughter to school. And despite all the male dominance that she faced, she did. But when this child became a teenager, she became a victim of a lot of sexual harassments, especially when she used to walk to and fro from school. And gradually, at the age of 14, the family decided to marry off this child. This, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, is a ploy, for lack of a better word, in rural India very often to kind of curtail the independence and the growth of a woman or a girl child. This child who was married for fear of potential rape is now most definitely a victim of child abuse, marital rape, and of course, wife beating. What kind of mother is she going to make at the age of 16? Lakshmi went on to tell me, shockingly so, that that's why we kill daughters in the womb, because it's better than letting them lead the kind of lives that we lead. So just the fear of sexual assault today is leading to illiteracy, early marriage, feticide, marital rape, domestic violence, not to mention the early pregnancies that lead to children being born with the birth defects, and mother and child surviving in an environment of severe mental trauma. That's the kind of society we're cultivating. And unfortunately, this is not an exception, but a norm, especially in rural India and also many, many parts of urban India. Independence and the choice to be able to exercise your rights is what empowers people. The right to live a life without fear. Empowerment is not literacy alone. Yes, it is one of the most important constituents of empowering women, but it is not absolutely the most key issue, according to me. I'll explain further. My housemaid has been with me for about 12 years. She is a very confident, earning, intelligent, happy woman who does everything of her own will and hasn't been for a day to school. I have 2 part-time helps in Mumbai who are educated till class 10. Unfortunately, they are educated, but very highly subjugated. One of them is a severe victim of marital brutality, which is rape and wife beating. The other one has been deserted by her husband and is raising 2 little girls, again, with what aim? Just one, to get them married as early as possible because she can't look after them. About 8-9 years ago, and I'm referring to a couple of things that I've experienced with our system. About 8-9 years ago, the same woman that I'm referring to, one of my part-time helps, who was a victim of domestic violence, tried to commit suicide twice. So I finally went to the head of the Department of Social Justice of Maharashtra. And I asked him what she should do or what I could do to help her. And he just said, let her go to a police station with him and they'll arrest him. So I asked him, how did he expect a woman who was being brutalized like this to actually take her husband to a police station? And he just shrugged, and this is, mind you, is the head of social justice in Maharashtra. He just shrugged and he said, well, that's the system, that's all we can do. In another example, a very senior friend and a very, very senior member of the police force explained to me that, Pooja, rape is one of the easiest crimes to prove and to have people punished. Unfortunately, in our country, we have no witness protection program. So when a crime like that is committed, the person is arrested, often released on bail, and by the time the case comes up for trial, and we've seen even how fast-track courts operate, how fast they operate in this country, the victim, who's already severely traumatized in a family, have been repeatedly threatened by the perpetrators of the crime or the next of kin, making them either withdraw their complaint or not providing the adequate evidence for a sentence. And that's what happens in 90% of the cases. Some of you may recall about this case of a girl called Asma in a posh locality like Juhu in Mumbai. She was returning from school. She was in class 9. And she was dragged by a jeep for a certain distance by a group of boys who were trying to pull her hair or whatever, harass her. And I called up the mother next day. This was a widely publicized case in Mumbai, so I managed to reach the hospital where she was. And I spoke to the mother and I asked her what kind of help she needed. And she just said, she says, we're just requesting for one thing, everyone please leave us alone. She said, it's not even 48 hours, and I have an older daughter who's in class 12, and she's been threatened twice already. We've had calls from unknown people saying they'll do much worse to my older daughter. So please just leave us alone. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a typical case in India. I see violence against women as one of the biggest problems in our country because it's a crime, I repeat, that leads to illiteracy, early marriage, feticide, birth defects, child abuse, marital rape, wife beating, mental trauma, and the birth of more mentally and socially unstable youngsters in this country. I'm today appealing to corporate companies and people in the government and people in media, people like you all sitting here and anyone else who has the power. If you really want to make a difference to a girl child in this country, don't just educate her, empower her. Give her a safe environment, give her the opportunity to use her education. Let her lead a life without fear and with a sense of freedom, of will. Don't just build schools, please ensure that the commute to and fro from those schools is safe for that girl child. Only then is your mission for literacy complete. I appeal to the judiciary of this country. Make effective, speedy, and severe punishment a practice and a norm, not a rarity like we saw in Nirbhaya's case. What happened after there have been several brutal gang rapes that have happened after her case. Very little has been done about it. So finally, does hope float? Today, the Mumbai police have addressed this issue of domestic violence and said, women cops will reach households where there are complaints. It's one of the best things I've heard in recent times. There is a 103 number as a helpline, and there are social ads being run for the safety of women. It may be all very slow, very late, very unsure. But it's not the time for cynicism. It's the time to be encouraging, work as a team, applaud efforts, and each one do their bit. Because we need every little citizen action to create its own ripple effect before we see that big wave of change. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pooja. It's Pooja Kapur from TAS, who's speaking about, she does a lot of work for addressing crimes against women. And we spoke about this yesterday, about how marital rape is the biggest issue in India, which nobody wants to open up because it's like opening a Pandora's box. And I don't think any of the politicos can afford that. And that was one of the requests which had gone to Justice Verma when he was creating the reforms on the rape laws. But marital rape issue was not touched upon. So any questions for Pooja Kapur? Yes, sir.
One thing, I want to be sorry. Please excuse me before I put up my question. Till yesterday morning, I'm looking at all the women activists, especially Abha, Mukherjee, I am very thankful the way she is blunt. She has taught one thing in entire, whatever she talked, be yourself. But one report, every woman activist is talking about harsher punishments. What is your reaction to the latest report where the Supreme Court judge and everybody said 75% of the rape cases which have been filed after the Nirvaya incident are false motivated cases? And second, I have a paper, today's paper. There is a teen has been raped in Gymkhana Club, which is hardly 5 minutes from here. And in this case, the accused is staying in Gymkhana Club. He is a resident of Lucknow. He has invited the girl to come to the Gymkhana where he is staying. The girl has come and she has stayed at night. She is staying in a Patel Nagar PG.
Yeah, I get
what can you expect more? And why not these women activists like you raise demands like questions? Why the girl has gone to the cottage at night where she stays in a PG? Please reply me. I think standing with Abha and like you, what's your reaction to all these things happening in the market?
I'm really glad you brought this up. I didn't have the time to cover that in my speech. I think this is one of the biggest issues today. I completely believe that one-on-one rape accused and gang rape has to be under completely different umbrellas, totally. I think one of the biggest mistakes we have happening today, and one of the biggest reasons why we have crimes like gang rape happening, is when it's a one-on-one rape, yes, there is a case where a girl puts herself into a very vulnerable situation sometimes, but more importantly, my concern is, what if it is a false accusation? So, but when it comes to a crime like gang rape, I mean, I don't think there's any scope for mutual consent. So I think one of the first things, you asked me that question, so let me tell you, one of the biggest things I'm addressing today is the issue of things like gang rape, acid attack, those kind of things, which are absolutely inhuman, brutal crimes. And of course, you know, when it comes to rape, there is going to be a situation where there will be false accusations, and I don't think people in those cases will get convicted.
But Jerry, you can't, at a forum like this, you can't let comments like that go unchallenged. I'm sorry. Because people like Pooja and me, we work too hard for someone to stand up and say, even if a woman chooses to spend the night in a room with a man, he has no right to rape her.
Absolutely.
Let's be clear about that. She can spend the night wherever she likes, dressed however she likes, and she still has control over her body. We cannot, at forums like this, allow this kind of thinking. If you're being blunt, I have the right to be blunt in return.
I think
we don't know the source of these statistics.
Kaizad,
so I'm sorry I had to say that.
Kaizad,
but not to take away from Pooja's...
before we move ahead, I don't think that Tumula was suggesting that anybody standing with them, or like I spoke yesterday.
No, but I think his comments were quite clear, Jerry.
Or drinking, she's not available.
No,
right?
Jerry, he said that we should talk to the women
who
who choose to spend the night with that man in the Gymkhana.
Okay. We have a Supreme Court lawyer, Ashok ji, after Kaizad finishes what he has
and
to
I don't
say.
want to take away from Pooja's brilliant speech, because I think this has been a kind of a red herring thrown in there to kind of take away from the work.
Yes.
Pooja, what I want to say to you is that, first of all, fantastically hit the nail on the head. CSR refuses to take on violence against women and children as a serious issue. Right. And you know this, but I just want to reiterate this for this audience, that in this country currently, we estimate, and these are probably at the lower end, that 1 out of every 2 women walking in this country today has been the victim of sexual or physical violence. Absolutely. 1 out of 2. That means that we have close to about 250 to 300 million walking wounded women who are trying to make a living, trying to support their families, trying to be productive in society.
And very often...
Sorry, and I just want to say that that number of wounded and injured and people trying to survive is nothing compared to any other threat that we face.
Yeah.
Until we learn to solve that threat, it's a national security threat, far greater than any terrorism we will ever face. Yes. Until we sort of get rid of this thinking that a woman is responsible for some man forcing himself on her based on how she dresses or where she chooses to be at night or where she chooses to sleep, we're never going to solve these issues. So I have to congratulate you, and I think we need to keep this discourse going to really... what a drain this is on our economy and on our humanity. So thank you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Ashok ji.
Jerry, first of all, Pooja, I congratulate you on such a wonderful speech.
Thank
At the same time, I have a question for you.
Sure.
And question is, Allama Iqbal says, खुदी को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से खुद पूछे बता तेरी रज़ा क्या है. That level of wisdom, Jerry was right. He seems to be antaryami. He said something which I wanted to say. It is not men versus women.
Yeah.
This problem is psychological problem.
Right.
Those who tease, those who rape. I share with you, I am doing law for last more than 4 decades.
Right.
And before even I entered law, I decided I would never represent a rape accused.
Right.
Because I thought that he's a sick man, I would not be able to connect with him.
But you
it
see
is sickness.
Right.
It is sickness.
Yes.
You know, you have to connect with the client before you represent him. So 40 years back, even as a young student of law, I thought, no. So question is,
Yes.
do you have any list of women organizations or any friends or any NGOs which are working on this subject? The punishment, this Jantar Mantar Pradarshan and India Gate Pradarshan would not stop rape.
Absolutely.
Dacoity, all these are on punishable for many years. The mindset is to be changed of boys, girls, as Jerry said. Something is to be done on that aspect.
Right.
97% of the rapes, are done by the known people.
Yeah.
So how would police help?
Right.
How would NGO help? So this is the work. We are all working, pardon my saying this, all the organizations are working only on 3% of rapes. And nobody is bothered about 97% of rapes.
Right.
That is the tragedy of India. And I was very happy to see Jerry. He was speaking from his heart. So true. मैं तो आज का आपका fan कल ही बन गया था बिल्कुल. This is the tragedy of India, that 97% of the rapes are not being worked upon. All these tamasha, all these NGOs, everybody is working just on 3% and go there. They don't change the mindset. I go to different, I tell you, one line I tell you, and the students, the young boy, he would be scared of doing. I tell them, मैं उनको कहता हूँ कि बेटा दिल में ना हो जुर्रत तो मोहब्बत नहीं मिलती और खैरात में इतनी बड़ी दौलत नहीं मिलती. First, earn yourself. Okay. Earn yourself. Don't rape. Don't tease. Earn your. अब जेरी जहाँ जाएगा तो girls तो सारी पीछे चली जाएंगी. Okay. No, this is on a serious note. I tell them that you earn respect. Don't force yourself. Earn respect of women. Yeah. That is to be taught not only to women, to men folk also. And for women also, I am one for this, that on that boy, women is also to be sure about herself. Women can't get close and say, okay, I'll stay with you at night. You have to be sure about yourself, what you are entering into. You have to bring that balance. It's very easy to make glamorous statements. Women has right what to wear. I say, yes, you have right what to wear. But do you have right to sleep with somebody and then say that, no, I was raped? Okay, that boundary land, Lakshman Rekha, women also are to be told कि बेटा ऐसे मत करना.
Okay.
बेटा रात को उसके साथ मत सोना.
Can I respond to your
that is what I'm saying. So we must work on developing human beings, men, women. Yes, and absolutely. I think I'll give you, in fact, tomorrow I'll present you that DVD, the film which I have made on this, how to sensitize society towards rape survivors, how to integrate them. Right. As Jerry said, we have to involve them, evolve them.
Right. Yes, Ashok ji, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ashok ji. Okay, so Ashok ji, two things.
This was an interesting.
Okay, I think where we may have a slight difference of opinion, and this is just mine, is my sister and I, we work on a program called Terrific Kids, which is we work with slum children to sensitize them about various things, including this. Yes. We work, in fact, in Grant Road, in the red light area with children from there, because we feel they see the maximum sexual brutality. And we are very worried about the mindset of the boys coming from there. Yes. But very honestly, changing the mindset is going to take at least 20 years. We can't wait for a million more cases.
I'm not saying wait. Punish the wrongdoers at the same time.
I understand.
Invest on changing mindset also. That is the permanent solution.
Right, absolutely. So, which is why...
That is very important.
Which is why...
Okay, as a moderator, I'll time out over here because...
I haven't spoken the whole day. Can I speak for a minute? Half a minute, 30 seconds.
Of course.
So I personally, I have a solution to this. Okay, my solution may be very radical, but I think every time there's a rape, I think the parents should be hanged. Okay, just catch the parents and hang them, because all rapists are born at home. Okay, it's the children who are actually, it's the upbringing, the education, the values, and we as parents
the fundamental duties.
Yes,
we are
fundamental
responsible. We
duties.
should be hanged.
Renounce practices derogatory to the dignity of
We'll
when we
talk
don't
about-
know
Yes.
how will we do it.
Pooja, thank you very much for that. I think as much as the punitive part is important, I think the preventive is important. And what we need to see, what Ashok Arora is saying is also right.
Yeah.
What he's saying is also right. What Kaizad said is also right. What I said yesterday about perception is also right. We exist, all these things exist, and we need to find a dynamic which works within all those circumstances.
We
So
need to
if
find
he
the
says,
balance.
yeah, and if he says women are responsible, he is in a way right. I mean, if we are sitting in the midst of people who are villagers, who do not understand what safety of women means, who've watched a pornography film and who are sitting out on the street, they see a woman, even if she's fully dressed, it doesn't matter. They go grab her. And you are sitting with an educated man, even in a short skirt, he understands that he cannot touch you. So it's the
Absolutely.
mind, the way the mind works, and we are talking about mindsets over here, how the shifts can be caused. And I think what all of us are doing is important in some way. So instead of saying this is right or this is wrong, I believe what he's saying, from his perspective, maybe just right, because he's reading out of here. He showed me this.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, he's right. So now what Kaizad say, yes, whatever happens, you cannot touch a woman. Yes, that's right.
Okay, thank you. The sentence almost became a speech. And thank you, Pooja. Mehul ji, our young volunteer Mehul will give you a certificate. Yeah, thank you so much, Pooja Kapur. That was brilliant, and a lot of thought provocation happened over there. I've always said that for the short term, a deterrent is very important. But for the mid and the long term, we need to teach people respect for women, especially in this country. Because a man's mindset in this country is every woman is available. We cannot deny that. Let's not live in denial. Sorry, that's the fact of it.